Every culture on Tamriel remembers the Dragonbreak in some fashion. To most, it is a spiritual anguish that they cannot account for. Several texts survive this timeless period, all, unsurprisingly, conflicting with each other regarding events, people, and regions. Wars are mentioned in some that never happen in another. The sun changes color depending on the witness, and the gods either walk among the mortals, or they don't. Even the 1008 years, a number some say arbitrarily chosen by the Elder Council, is an unreliable measure. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Scott, and today we are going to be talking about one of the most complex and confusing aspects of the Elder Scrolls, a truly wacky element of the lore that baffles most beginners. Today we are talking about the infamous Dragonbreaks, what they are and what they do. So, what on Nern is a Dragonbreak? Well, let's start with the name Dragonbreak. The term Dragonbreak is a reference to the dragon god Akatosh. Now, Akatosh is also the same as the elven god Auriel, the Adric entity that created linear time. In fact, one of the Dragonbreaks may have separated the entity into two separate gods, but I'll hold off on confusing you for now. So, Akatosh the dragon god created time. Now, sometimes in the Elder Scrolls timeline, due to various causes, linear time breaks, and time returns to the chaotic-like state that it was in the Dawn era. Stuff didn't happen in a cohesive series of events, with one preceding another, aka it wasn't linear. So when time breaks, the dragon breaks, as in Akatosh, the time god, breaks, meaning the dragon is broken, aka time is broken. Now we will get into how these happen further down the line, but for now let me further explain the concept. So for example, let's assume we are just rocking along in linear time, and we here at FudgeMuppet make a video asking what content you would like to see. There are many replies and comments, and we're about to make our final decision for our content direction, but then a dragon break happens due to some metaphysical reason, and time breaks. So what happens now is that multiple timelines are formed. In one timeline, we make more Elder Scrolls lore and builds. In another timeline, FudgeMuppet becomes a meme review channel. In another timeline, we delete our channel and become monks in Tibet. In one timeline, Camelworks cuts his hair off. In another timeline, Camelworks' hair gets so long that it gains sentience and assumes control of him. Now, all of these outcomes, all of these events that happen in multiple timelines are true because they exist in multiple separate timelines. But at the end of a dragon break, it gets crazy. You see, time eventually gets fixed up, and what happens is all of these multiple timelines with different events and multiple outcomes are consolidated into one singular timeline once again. I'll make up a basic diagram so you can get the gist of it, but essentially what happens is that once time is fixed up again, the past of several timelines remains true yet contradictory because they have all converged into a singular timeline. All events and outcomes of the multiple timelines are consolidated into one singular linear timeline once again, which is absolutely insane and very confusing for the residents of Tamriel who experienced it. So, say the dragon break happened and all of those theoretical events occurred on separate timelines, us becoming a meme review channel, etc. All of these events of the past from the point at the end of the dragon break are true, yet contradictory. So, at the end of the dragon break, we end up with some weird mishmash of events, where certain people believe things happened some way and others believe this way, and technically both are right because they did happen that way, but only because time was out of control. So people in current time would look back and believe we legitimately became a meme channel, and others would believe we deleted our channel, and in a way, they are both right. But how does that affect us? Well, somehow time would have to be consolidated and, well, we may still have a channel. Maybe we are actually dead. And it would be some serious Mandela effect shit, where thousands thought we deleted the channel, but we're actually still running. Oh my god, perhaps that is why the Mandela effect actually happens in real life. It's because a dragon break occurred in real life. Jokes aside, the Mandela effect is probably closest to what the feeling of experiencing a dragon break would be like. It feels so real, and technically it was real, but it was on a different timeline. Mortals can't really comprehend dragon breaks, also referred to as untime, and for good reason, because they make no sense. And when we soon delve into the dragon breaks of Tamrielic history, we will understand why. People who experience the Dragon Break at the end of it all forget certain events and things, dismissing them as crazy or nonsensical, but still feel this deep spiritual anguish that they cannot account for. In fact, even the moth priests who read the Elder Scrolls cannot look back on time affected by the Dragon Break, so even the Elder Scrolls don't get what happened. The only people who seem to understand the Dragon Breaks or be aware that they are happening while they are happening are supernatural entities like the tribunal gods or Shezarines. Now, there is no one specific thing that causes the Dragon Breaks other than knowing it is one big crazy metaphysical event, and some things are known to trigger a Dragon Break, like when the Numidium is activated, for example. It is said to cause a Dragon Break every time. But regardless, let's have a look at known examples of Dragon Breaks. So the earliest Dragon Break and the smallest is the Time Wound, and Skyrim players would be very familiar with this. So in the Merethic era, during the legendary Dragon War, the fight against Alduin and the oppression of dragons, 3 ancient tongues, users of the Thumb, attempted to defeat Alduin with the use of the Shout Dragonrend, but they were unable to slay him. As a last resort, one of the tongues, Feldir the Old, used a combination of the Elder Scrolls he brought with him and the Thumb to banish Alduin, creating a time wound at his location on the throat of the world. This break in time was used to send Alduin forward into the future, where he would be defeated by the last Dragonborn. Now, whether this little event is actually considered a Dragon Break is arguable, but it is an example of breaking time, and this could account for the lack of knowledge of the Dragon War period. But anyways, the takeaway is that Feldir the Old messed around with time. Now we have what is called the Red Moment. Come the year 668 of the First Era and the War of the First Council, Indoral Nerevar was fighting a war against Dumak Dwarf King in the Battle of Red Mountain. The Dwemer had been creating the Numidium, the brass god, and this was an attempt by the enigmatic Dwemer to become divine. But what seems to have happened, as every other time the Numidium is activated, is that time breaks into multiple timelines, which explains the many contradicting events of the Battle of Red Mountain. Was House Dagoth loyal to the Kaimer, the Nords, or the Dwemer? Whether Nerevar or the Tribunal killed Dagoth, or whether Dumak was killed by Nerevar, Dagoth, or Wulfarth? Did Nerevar die of wounds, or was he murdered by the Tribunal? Were the Nords even present at the battle? All of these events occurred during a Dragon Break, so they are equally true, but contradictory, and these events were all consolidated into one single timeline. Then one of the most famous Dragon Breaks to ever occur, which we mentioned in our Elysian Order video, so check that out for more info, link in the description, was called the Middle Dawn, which was forced by the Maracati Selective, a sect of the Elysian Order, who caused a Dragon Break by dancing on the White Gold Tower and using the Staff of Towers to try and separate Auriel and Akatosh into 2 separate entities. The commonly accepted period of time that this Dragon Break occurred is during 1008 years. How you track that? I don't even know, which is why it is believed by some that the Elder Council just picked it as an arbitrary number. But regardless, what happened during these 1000 years is crazy. There is the standard, he killed him, this war happened, but no it didn't, this region was conquered, but no it wasn't, which all conflict with each other. But the craziest stuff is that the Empire spread to the stars going into space, that Cyrodiil became an egg, that the sun changed color. The Tribunal claimed that they and the good Daedra protected Morrowind from the effects of the Dragon Break. It was a crazy ass period of time, or I guess I should say untime, but it was eventually resolved by unknown circumstances, and time was fixed around the time of the War of Righteousness. Then in the late Second Era, when Tiber Septim was conquering Tamriel, he made a deal with Vivek and was gifted the Numidium, and with Zur and Arctus, Tiber had the Colossus rebuilt, and when he activated it, he used it to purge royal families who did not support his reign and to conquer the Somerset Isles. He conquered the city of Alinor in an hour, but some say the battle lasted eras because the Numidium caused a Dragon Break. Apparently entire regions of Elsewhere were poisoned and contaminated during the Numidium's reconstruction, but all those truths were obviously not consolidated into the linear timeline that followed. However, obviously Tiber Septim ended up victorious, and he ended up creating the Third Empire. And finally, we have the reason the concept of the Dragon Break was invented by Bethesda, the warp in the West. You see, in Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, you could have multiple endings with drastically different outcomes, but which ending would be canon? So Bethesda answered this question by making all of the endings canon in a miracle of peace called the Warp in the West, a dragon break that occurred when the Numidium is activated once again at the end of Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall. Lore-wise, this dragon break caused multiple timelines where each ending is true, but once time fixed itself by some kind of miracle, the 44 petty kingdoms of the Iliac Bay were consolidated into 4 equal and organized kingdoms, being Wayrest, Daggerfall, Sentinel, and Dorsinium, all of which remained loyal to the Empire. It is a crazy-ass concept, and one that I have tried to not dive too deep in on so that you don't get too confused. But to recap, a dragon break occurs when some kind of metaphysical crazy event happens and wrecks time, making it non-linear and forming multiple timelines with multiple outcomes and multiple events. But eventually the dragon break ends and all of the timelines are reconciled into one singular linear timeline once again, which makes the past events equally true but contradictory, because they all did happen just on multiple separate timelines that rejoined into one timeline. So I hope that successfully explains the concept of a dragon break. Perhaps they will use a dragon break once again for the explanation of Skyrim's state. For example, when the Dragonborn slays Alduin, it could cause a dragon break, meaning that the timelines split, and in some timelines, the Imperials win Skyrim back. In others, Ulfric Stormcloak leads a successful rebellion. In one timeline, the Emperor is assassinated, and in another, he is not, all leading to one consolidated timeline where perhaps the Emperor is assassinated and the whole Empire ends up collapsing because of a grisly war of succession, leading to Skyrim's independence, and perhaps we're in High Rock or Hammerfell, siding with multiple kingdoms or something. Anyways, I don't know. Point is, dragon breaks are crazy, but I hope this video helped you understand the crazy. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Social media links are in the description. Remember to subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.